Initial course at a police training centre can be summed up, as far as I'm concerned, in that it needs to meet 4 basic objectives. The recruit, when he goes away from here, should have 4 skills. The first is that he should be able to actually do the job of being a policeman on the ground, and we should have given him sufficient professional skill whilst he's here to do that. Secondly, we should have given him a platform, a training platform, on which he can build over the next 2 years. We should have given him an understanding of the role of the police officer in society, and we should have helped him with confidence, given him a little self-confidence to enable him to do the sometimes difficult job of meeting and conversing with people during his day-to-day work. But as far as the different things which are taught here, I think that we are teaching the right things, because of course we started off by going to the people who were to have this course, that is policemen on the ground, and saying to them, what is it you want to be taught? And that is what we're teaching.
It was felt that the initial training course for police needed to be changed because there had not been a major overhaul of the course since 1946. The course designed in 1946 had been modified and constantly updated, but there had not been a new approach recognizing the changing job role of a uniformed police officer in the 1970s. We recognized, first of all, that a police officer must have a certain amount of theoretical knowledge. So we have some of our objectives are orientated towards establishing a standard of knowledge, the necessary standard of knowledge to allow him to carry out his duties as a uniformed police officer efficiently. The second thing that we recognize is the need for a minimum practical standard of performance. And with this in view, other objectives are written with a view to establishing that not only does he know what the law requires, but that in fact he can carry it out efficiently.
Turn your radio off, please, sir. Could you turn your radio off, please, sir, and turn the engine off?
What's the matter?
I've seen you attempting to drive this vehicle on the road, and I have reason to believe that you have alcohol in your blood.
Oh.
I require you to provide me with a breath test. I must point out that it is an offence to refuse or to fail to do so.
I think we would also mention that thirdly, although behavioral measurement is something that we would hesitate to go into in a big way, it's a very difficult thing to measure, is a change in attitude. But what we have done is by including a series of beat incidents, which are mock-ups of practical situations involving the public that he might meet outside, we check his reaction to these. We check that he acts correctly, and we assume perhaps that because he acts correctly, then his attitude is correct. So when we talk about behavioral measurement, I wouldn't claim that this course measures behavior accurately to any degree, but we would monitor an incorrect attitude in his performance of a beat incident practically.
I'm arresting you for having a exceeded proportion of alcohol in your blood. You're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you say may be put into writing and given in evidence.
Well, I've only had a drink. One drink. Right, now you give him the breath test, and then we get on to the station procedure proper. You arrive at the station, and you've got that file, that capsule that you used, and you show that either to the station inspector or the station sergeant. As you would in any other arrest, you would tell him the reasons why you had arrested this person.
Certainly there are standards and ideas which policemen acquire as a result of doing the job of being a policeman for 20 years, and so to that extent it's restrictive. We're introducing this, of course, to 19-year-olds, and they, quite honestly, I think, form their own opinions and values on what we tell them.
Dad, you've caused enough trouble. Now get up and let me in the house. I want some breakfast.
I've told you, you're not coming over here
I want some bloody breakfast.
Get it
Dad.
straight once and for all, will you?
Can you get me in the house?
Dad!
One assesses a student in a practical situation by setting out at the beginning of it with a list of things, skills, which the recruit should have acquired at the end of this particular lesson a checklist, if you like.
Can I have a word with you, sir? Where are they? Can I just have a word? Let me in, Dad. It's about him, no. He's finished. Are you his father? Put your boot in my door. Come on, put your boot out. Are you his father? Yes. Have some breakfast, Dad. I wouldn't think so, would you? Then why won't you let him in? Get your foot out my doorway. Go on. Go on. He's very unreasonable. Dad! Let me in! Dad! Just come here. That was him. You don't buzz off. You know what you'll get. You know what you'll get.
You want a little bit of understanding there. Well, look, sir, let's come to some agreement with you. What's your name? Mr. So-and-so. Then you are talking to him on a level. At the moment, you don't know his name. You're talking to him, hey, just a minute. You don't know whether to call him mate, you, or anything.
It's important that people who come to teach at initial training centres should have a background of operational police work, because what they are teaching, they must relate this to their own experience. And it's important that they have operational police work to look forward to at the end as well, because that, after all, is a complete change from what we do here.
Ball! Up! Ball! Out! Move on to the side, ladies and gentlemen. Please use under control, over. First ambulance at Northampton Street outside the courthouse. There's been a road accident, over. You want him, mate? Sure? Yep. Call the ambulance? Yes, call the ambulance. I don't want you to fall out now into your respective groups and deal with the parties. Yeah, I'm certainly on. Oh, yeah, dear. It was a bit rough, that one, wasn't it? Well, actually, while we're waiting for the ambulance, then we'll just get a few details. Yes, please, sit down in the car. Right. What's your name then, please?
Dominic.
Are you married?
No.
You're not, so it's Miss. 11:55.
19.
He'll be alright, won't he, that bloke?
Yeah, it's all right.
30.
11:55. Give your address, please, Mr. Brown.
This car came round the corner.
This car?
Yeah, I had to switch car, wait for it to come round.
Which
that
car?
one over there where that man's hurt.
Sideways. I'm in the runner's pocket there, on the side out, Tim. Lift it up. Right, slide.
Well, they've had a lesson on accident law. They've also had a lesson on the action to be taken at the scene of an accident. We have a series of 4 accidents so that they can implement this knowledge. This is the 4th and most serious of those accidents. Initially, they each go to one person, take all the relevant details depending upon whether they're a witness or a driver. As soon as they've all completed the relevant details, they will move round so that eventually they will all in turn visit each person. What I'm initially looking for is see that they are putting the right answers to the questions that the book asks. Like any form, it's very simple to fill out if you know exactly what's required. I'm looking for the right answers to the right questions. I'm looking for fluency in dealing with the accident and dealing with the witnesses themselves. You're going to make that one there A. So XA. We shall return to the classroom after we've dealt with the scene. There we shall complete the accident book, which involves a statistics form and also a resume of what they think happened and any recommendations there may be in respect of offences committed. Also, if there are any statements to be taken from persons, then we arrange for them to come to the police station.
Now, you were driving the vehicle CEA 766C this morning.
Yes, that's right.
Well, Mr. Coons, you're not obliged to say anything unless you wish to do so. But what you say may be taken down in writing and given in evidence.
That's fair enough, yeah. That's all right.
Fine. Now, I want some details about the injury you sustained.
I just got a cut on my forehead, received 6 stitches.
Sometimes when we have a person involved in a street accident and we're not able to interview them at the time, like this chap, he was taken to hospital, we make arrangements to see them later, either at the police station or the home. We then take from them the relevant details that we obtain from the other drivers at the scene, and then we take a statement from them. In this particular case, it was a statement under caution because there's a possibility that an offence may have been committed. As you probably saw, every member in the class, in fact, made a statement out at the same time. These statements will be taken in by me later. They'll be marked, and it's my job to ensure that they have all the relevant detail, and particularly in this case, that they've complied with the judge's rules. These are rules regarding statements made by persons who may be prosecuted, and if these rules aren't complied with, then the evidence that we have accumulated cannot be offered.
If in a training centre it was suddenly identified that one of our design training periods was going wrong or was not having the end result that we hoped, the commandant of that centre would be in touch immediately. So anything which is seriously wrong would be remedied more or less immediately at Central Planning Unit. All of the notes that are issued are updated, they're reprinted here, amendment lists are going out regularly, so there's a constant monitoring of the course. But in addition to that, I have meetings at intervals of the chief instructors of all centres, and they discuss the value of the course with the commandant and how it is going before coming to the meeting, and then we have a general sit round the table, thrash out progress on the course, areas where we might have a fresh approach, and we constantly rewrite and update. The course which was written and begun 2 years ago has been seriously modified since then in the light of experience. Not that we found any major difficulties, but we have been able to improve.
The most significant feedback which we receive, we are just starting to receive it, is from the students themselves who were trained under this system, who come back here after 18 months operational police work for their 2 weeks refresher course. And they're very quick to tell us what was wrong with our initial course. So that feedback is very useful. Also, they go to their own forces, and if they think that what they've been taught here is not entirely relevant, they can tell their own force training officers, who will let us know, and we will amend, if necessary, the course to take account of those representations.
So the final preparation, you've got there in plenty of time, you look the part, you've got your exhibits there, you've got your witnesses there, you've consulted with the prosecutor if that's required, you have not consulted with the defence, and then the case begins.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Christopher David Jones, Police Constable 1127 of the Leicestershire Constabulary, at present stationed at Brighton-on-Dunsmore. Your Worships, on Monday, January the 6th, 1975, at 3:08.
Well, the only assumption the course makes really is that they're reasonably well educated, can read and write, can converse fairly well. It doesn't make any assumptions about attitudes at all. We tell students what police attitudes are, but of course one has to remember that they are essentially individuals and they form their own views.
And started shouting at the defendant, who shouted back. I went over to the two and separated them. I said to the defendant, "Is this your bike?" He replied, "No, it's hers. I did it because her dad..."
I think it would be wrong to say that there was any commonness of background. We prefer a wide section of society. We think that in addition that it's a safeguard, perhaps, to have a wide section of society in the police service. Our brief, really, within this initial course of training, is to put a uniformed police officer on the beat who is equipped with the minimum standards of knowledge and the minimum skills which will allow him to undertake his on-the-job training role, which goes on over a period of 2 years. So it's functional in that sense. Our brief is to produce a finished article, but not in the robot-like type of way, as you can already appreciate from what we've discussed. By having these other objectives that measure practical performance, and so far as we can, correctness of attitudes, then we have the complete article. He hasn't only got the minimum mechanical skills, but we would hope the right attitudes to come face to face with the public.
Officer, I put it to you that this cycle was already in a very poor state of repair, that the wheel was already buckled, that the forks were already bent, and that the pedal was already twisted. Can you in fact refute that?
I cannot say whether the pedal was twisted or the wheel buckled, but after the defendant had finished with the bike, the pedal was broken off, the frame was fractured, and the front wheel was broken off.
No further questions to this witness, Your Worship.
I think also.
Whoa! Halt! Pull out! Get yourself in the seat now.
You're right, little fella.
Yes.
Go for an ambulance. Get in an ambulance. Okay.
That's an ambulance to Leicester Square. A man appears to be injured, fallen off a ladder, over.
Go on. Oh. It's going to hurt, so I'm just going to have to strain your leg a bit. Oh! Oh! Oh, God.
We have here a situation of an injured workman. Somebody doing some work is fallen down off the ladder quite obviously. Good examination here. We've got bandages placed on. We have tied off on the uninjured side. Organ a little bit slack. Should have been bored, and it should have been a reef knot. Well, we want to see that a student can assess a situation quickly. One of the essentials of anything relating to injury and a potential situation which can cause danger. Here we've got an injured man. There was a potential danger still with the ladder. So they've got to look after themselves. I mean, if they are knocked out, then we've got an additional patient to deal with. In this situation, they dealt very well, in fact, with the injured man. They did a good, quick examination.
Most forces have got a special form.
Yes, within the course, we check progress at weekly intervals. In the first place, we check progress on theoretical matters. We give them a weekly slip test, which tests all of the major training objectives for that particular week. It's not quite as simple as that. Having taken the test, we insist upon a 70% minimum standard of performance. If that standard is not reached, then we analyze the examination paper, the answers, and we determine from our analysis the training objectives which have not been understood. We have 2 progress examinations, 2 official examinations, one taking place in the middle of the course and one at the conclusion of the course. This is meant to test a certain amount of retention. You can appreciate we've already made quite great play of the 70% minimum standard, and this is the important thing. Has he reached the standard acceptable to the police service in an initial training course? It's perhaps of passing interest to other people that a student achieved 96% rather than 70%, but it is not important to this system of training.
Out! 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 Lively! Get together! Out! Out! No need for that, you lot of zombies! Get your legs apart! What are you afraid of? Over! 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 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's probably fair to say a police officer needs some of the characteristics of the good sportsman. And I think for this reason it's essential that he plays games under supervision and, dare I say, correct attitudes are formed in relation to games in addition to other aspects of police life. I don't think we would take it beyond that. I think it's important that people participate. I think it's important that they join in the spirit of the things which are taking place in a police training centre. And we don't really have an awful lot of room for the person who wants to be all of the time on his own. We might describe it as a pre-packaged course. It's centrally prepared and it's centrally approved. And this is then handed over to the commandant of a training centre, and of course he follows the guidelines which have been set down. So there will be many who say, we have taken away the individuality, not only of the individual commandant, but of the instructors on the ground. And looked at in one way, this is a valid comment. Yes, we have. But we have put together a package which represents a standard training package for a police officer. But I think I should also mention that in the way in which we've prepared the instructor's notes and the brief for instructors, although we've given them content, we've identified a start point and a finish point and the width of the lesson. We have never dictated to an instructor how those objectives should be achieved. The things which he has as standard are outline packages of what should be taught, but not how he will teach it. And again, the examinations are standardized and prepared here, because it's rather a scientific job to design an examination which precisely tests predetermined training objectives.